Afternoon, evening. My name's Mark Bolwell. Thanks to Dennis for inviting me. Well, sort of jumping me in it a little bit. I'm going to be trying to hopefully show you a bit around CIS, DIG compliance. Anyone here work on compliance? PCI, HIPAA? There's compliance everywhere right now, we know this. And it's really, really difficult to try and keep on top of it. STIG, for example, release a new one every 3 months. So I'm constantly rewriting, testing, and getting those things working for that out. So I work for a company called Mindpoint. Well, my name's Mark Bolwell. I've been working in IT for around 20 years as a sysadmin. I love Ansible. I've been using it since very, very early on. And I am currently one of the developers of the Ansible Lockdown product. Has anyone heard of Ansible Lockdown at all? Oh, okay, cool. Oh, you have, that's funny. So Ansible Lockdown is an Ansible set of Ansible playbooks which will help you bring your system into compliance. Long and short of it. Everyone knows Ansible. I'm not going to go in and show you loads of screenshots and bits and pieces. We have 2 products, and I'll tell you, one is Ansible Lockdown, and that is the playbooks themselves, and we support them using Lockdown Enterprise, which is just will support you with the repo and try and help you work it for your environments. And then we have another level, which is Ansible Counselor, which is full-on Ansible support. We'll help you work with Tower, we'll help you work with your environments, and you get access to support to all the repos we manage. So Mindpoint, they're a US company based in Virginia, Washington State over there. We are mainly cybersecurity. We've got multiple areas we work in: FedRAMP, managed security operations centers, security automation, compliance automation, red teaming, all those nice buzzwords that are going around again right now. We've got some pretty big clients up there. You probably see DOJ, DOD, MIT. I actually spoke to them this week, so I support MIT on what they're using, which is kind of cool, but it is their internal lab, so it's very, very cool. So yeah, we've got some good clients working out there. Hopefully going to try and get a few more in the European area. CBS is based in the Netherlands, so that's one of my clients which I will deal with from here. As I mentioned, compliance, as we know, is necessary for a lot of industries right now. Everyone's working from home, more compliance is required, and so on and so on. It is a pain. I started out doing compliance with someone else here tonight, trying to get it on board because clients wanted compliance, working MSP, what standard are you working to, how are you working it, and then trying to maintain that compliance is just hard work. There's no 2 ways about it, it's hard work. So it is, how do you keep the compliance, how do you keep it up to date, and how do you maintain that config drift? So what we've written 2 products. One is an audit and one's a remediate. So audit is a very lightweight product called Goss. Anyone used Goss before? Heard of Goss? No? It stands for Go Server Spec. It's a very small binary, as you'd expect from Go, and it allows you to run on the host very, very quickly. Probably sub 20 seconds to get a full report back on your audits. So we try and audit the box, we then remediate, and then we audit again. So you can get a pre-audit, remediate what you've chosen to bring into remediation, so into compliance, and then we audit again afterwards so you can show what's going on. As I said, these are highly configurable. So you can configure every single CIS control or STIG control to work for you. So if you've got a web server, you turn and say, I'm a web server, you set that to true, and it will not remove Apache. Because the last thing you want to do on a web server is go and remove Apache or Nginx, whichever one you're looking at the time. So every one of these controls is available for you to turn on and off. You also have the ability to turn other things, change your name servers, and so on, NTP servers. I'm just going to get on with it. There's no 2 ways about it. No one wants to talk about slideshows all day. I don't like it either. So I will talk to you a little bit more and show you exactly what I'm doing. It says, if I can get it up. Why is that appearing on there? Da-da-da, not that one. He says, I will get this off the screen in a second. I need a mouse. Okay. Anyone know how to get this off here? Because I am terrible with using the keyboard. Okay. So I've got 3 hosts set up. I've just spun them up just now. They're all Vagrant hosts running locally on my machine. As you can see, I've started to set these all set up in the YAML format. And I mentioned Dennis this week. I don't know if you guys know on Ansible, it can be a little bit funny using ini files with Booleans. So it is documented on one line on the Ansible documentation. not to use Booleans with ini, because it can give you some very, very bad results. Believe me, I've spent hours trying to fault find clients' problems when they're trying to use ini formats. So I tend to write everything in YAML. It's a little bit harder, but I'm getting a lot more consistent results. So in here, you have your host set up. So I've got a set of Rocky hosts. One's running a BIOS bootloader, and one's running an EFI bootloader. And as you can see, they've got different settings. So one of them will skip the reboot. It will not carry out a reboot at the end of it. The other one will take a reboot. Yes, it will go a definite reboot. The EFI box is running its syslog server to be journal D. And I believe we have the Alma one is running, the other one is running it as our syslog. Can I zoom in? Ooh. There's always one. How's that? Does that work? Can you see that?
Go another one.
Got another one? It's too big on my screen now. Here we go. How's that? Okay, let's just clear this one off. Right. So now I can't do it. Okay, so I've got a lot more settings put inside there. This was to try and show you something, as Dennis said I was going to dump for a minute. We were trying to show you a SCAP report as well, but it wasn't allowing me time today to try and get that sorted for you. But we were going to try and give you a SCAP report versus my audit report as well. Again, I'm just using variables the way through. As you can see, this is October update. These are latest stuff today. I've literally pushed it up today in a separate branch. So you'll be seeing the latest code. Now, oh God. What I will show you really quickly is the playbook. So these are all basically named under the compliance you're looking for, the benchmark. So if you're looking for CIS, we have CIS. If you want STIG, you want STIG. We do REL 7, REL 8. I've released a REL 9 CIS, although it's not officially released. So this is very much in a beta phase. CIS haven't yet released it. So feedback from that is always grateful. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that I'm using my Ansible variables very, very heavily. Now, he says, why is this not one? Okay, I'm trying to get onto a big screen so you guys can see it. Now, when you run Ansible, Ansible will actually kick off your Goss run, so your audit. Now, what we've managed to do is using variables for Ansible, and because Goss works in YAML format as well, we've managed to only run and test what you're trying to change. So when Ansible says I'm a web server, it won't test to say well, the web server's not there. It will only test what you expect to find. So keeping your speed going faster and using exactly the same configuration. Obviously, if it's not a web server, you want to make sure it's not installed. So you need to have your variables across all of them. And you don't want to configure lots and lots of different YAML files for different hosts and so on. So using one place makes life much easier. So I will kick off the playbook really quickly. Let's see if we can do this via command line, shall we? 8. Oh, I hate keyboard. Playbook. 8. Yeah, I had all this running earlier on, and I've lost all the history. Site.yaml. So I'm literally going to run the full playbook now. I've left command warnings on just for your information. I am running 2.13, the latest version, although we can run 2.9. Now, this runs in several stages. We do some preliminary checks in the box to make sure it's compliant and we've got the bits and pieces we need on the system to run. We then also go and try and gather information. We go through the etc password and start to associate hosts and groups together so we can use the information throughout the playbook. So using dynamic variables as much as possible. You can see I've tried to label them so you have preliminary checkings. We're now doing the audit. Now it actually sets the audit up. It's not set by default. The audit will actually go out, pull it down from the Goss repo, put it down, verify the SHA matches and everything else. And then at the moment I've been using Git to pull down the latest version of the repo as well. So you have the latest content that Goss is running. That will then stick it on the box. And as you can see, it's running on the box and they're completed. That's literally run every single check on the box right now. So we then go through all your normal checks, which is obviously going to go really slow today for some reason. But these systems are just vagrant boxes. I do have all the file systems set up for you. So your /var, your var log, your var log audit, the ones that everyone says, why do we need them? Well, compliance is why you need them. Because no one wants an auditor saying, why haven't done this, why haven't done that? So hopefully at the end of this, you'll get a nice long report. Now we're looking through every single control, every single one. You can turn everyone on and off, as I mentioned earlier on. As you'll see when we come to section 4.2, you'll see some will run the RSys log and some will run the journal D of 4.23, I think it is. You will get there pretty quickly. We are using templates for your system CTL, so you can variabilize those as much as possible as well, so you can add on to those. And we are adding some more enhancements as well for things like audit D. So as some of you that may use CIS realize that when they ask you to change something, it can break other things. So audit D will break, especially because it goes, the default space must be 50% free on your varlog audit. Yeah, the shutdown one's a pain. So we've got all those variable ones. You don't want your boxes shutting down, ideally, although CIS say you do. In an ideal world, it'd be great, but you're not always in an ideal world. We just lost the screen because I'm running on power. Okay, here comes the audit part as we talk about it right now, as if by magic. It is very, very fast. I have turned off patching as well because obviously trying to do a patch off my tether's not going to work very well. So, any questions so far? Anyone want to go anything? Anyone? That's a very good question, and I know exactly where we're going with this, and I'll be careful what I'm saying. I will show you really briefly on the left-hand side here. So as we're going through it, I have separated every section off and every single control. It means, one, I can isolate everything and work on one thing at a time. Obviously, some are related, but it also means it's easier for everyone to pick up and read. The whole thought of Ansible in the beginning was to keep it simple. And when you're seeing unnamed, 20,000 line main.yaml, it gets a little bit difficult for someone trying to pick it up. I didn't set that question up, but that actually nailed exactly where we wanted to go. The other thing you're going to find here is at the end we'll see an audit, and there's probably around 160, 170 controls in CIS. Now, we're running 300 checks. Now, CIS have just changed it, and you might work out why. We don't just test the config, I test the running config. So it's great having the config's correct and tick and you passed your audit, but the running config be completely different. We know this. I'm a sysadmin as well. I used to get around it, let's be honest. So I'm actually checking both sides to try and make sure no one's trying to be a little bit on the, I'll pass, don't worry about it, just tick it off and off we go. So at the end, you'll see a report with a lot more tests taking place, which is why when you're doing 300 odd checks, it's coming back very, very fast. It gives you a speed time at the bottom as well, just to show you how fast it is running. It's interesting watching different OSs, because obviously we have Rocky out there now, Alma out there now. I'm not doing CentOS because it's a little bit too bleeding edge, and trying to keep it aligned with everything else is very, very difficult. We have a very big community starting to build up. We've only started in May, we're up to 160 on our Discord channel already. So it's growing very, very fast. We're getting more and more feedback from that as well. So it's really helping when we're going. And again, we get a lot of work from the community, issues and PRs. So it really helps us to try and see what problems people are having and how we can help them out as well. Where are we up to? We're at 5.3. So it will smash through this pretty quickly. Go on, Dennis. Yep, OpenSCAP, yep.
They have an option to create Ansible playbooks.
They do?
To enforce state.
Yep.
How is this different?
So these are controlled by you. You know what you're getting. Yeah. So if you use the OpenSCAP playbooks, they're open to interpretation a little bit. They're written in a way which works on most versions of Ansible, but not always following the practices that you'd expect to find. I'll try to word that correctly as well.
The way you can go to the defaults and actually force, turn tests off.
Yeah, so I can turn everything off, and once I can turn off. Same again, if you want to do, CIS comes in 2 levels, level 1 and level 2. We've run it with tags, so if you want to run level 1, you just tag level 1 server or level 1 workstation, because obviously they are slightly different. Not a lot, I think there's about 3 controls on each, but we've had to do it because some people wanted it. So you can turn every single thing on and off. Now, if we come down to 6.11, at the end, I mentioned it will reboot. So those of you that work out there, you'd want to reboot previously before you do anything. Ideally, make sure everything's working in a running state. We're not running an ideal world, and you don't always get a chance to reboot afterwards. But if you do, I'm going to be rebooting any second now, you'll find that Rocky will come back really quickly and Al will be really slow. Don't know why. I haven't worked out exactly why. There's a few differences between all the OSs that I'm finding. And if you run the audit report, which I'm not running RHEL today, The audit report takes about 35 seconds longer on RHEL than it does any other OS because their subscription management takes a long time for the API calls to come back. So if anyone's interested, that's why.
How many servers are you?
So I've got 3 here right now. So I've got 2 Rocky, one with a BIOS and one with the EFI bootloader, because they have different settings. And I have 1 Alma, which is also running a BIOS.
Send an email to you after the report?
So from the back of this report, you could get it send you an email. I haven't written it in because it's not part of CIS. We try and stick to CIS as much as possible. And that's gone again. We try and stick to what they've written as much as possible. It wouldn't be hard for you to write a mail or 2 and send it back to yourself. It does uninstall postfix. That's a really good point, actually. But what I will tell you now is there is potentially, well, there will be another product coming out very shortly which will display it all for you. So you can have, the Goss is run so lightly that you can run that hourly if you wanted to. So you can get your config drift and it will show you the last 2 runs, the differences and bits and pieces. That is currently in beta. So watch this space. I might try and see if I get some out here for you.
So I guess we'll see it in a minute, but the output of, I guess it would be Goss if it's then going and doing that check afterwards. How easy, I guess, is that output to manipulate? Is it stored in JSON, YAML, or something like that? Or?
So we've written it so it comes out in YAML, because obviously we can pull the data in really quickly into a database and query it really fast. There is different output types. It is in documentation. You can run one actually called documentation, which is a bit easier to read and tells you exactly what's going on. You'll also find some of these controls you can't always do work with. You can't always change file systems. So we put in warnings for those. For those that you cannot automate because the risk is too great, there's a warning statement. Now at the end of the run, which we just added in the last month, you'll get a list of warnings that come up saying, please investigate these controls because you need to do something about them. That's something I can't investigate, but it gives you at the bottom a full summary. I might have to zoom out so you can see it on the screen, but it gives you a full summary of the audit and what warnings you've had across all your estate. So the warning saying, I don't know, temp hasn't got no exec on it. We've just done it for a client and they've taken ages and realized that they've got loads of scripts running in temp, and we hardened it and everything stopped working 30 days afterwards, because obviously we'd just done it after a cycle had happened. So a cron job went to go kick off and they had no reports. So it's very, very key that when you're doing these things, you test it to the nth degree. Preferably on a brand new box, brand new system, then throw yourself on top and then harden it again and see what happens. The testing phase is the hardest part. It really is. That's the Rocky EFI that's going slow now, look. They should have passed that one, I think. Yeah. It's strange. They're a little bit inconsistent, and I think maybe it's just maybe the Mac or Vagrant's just taking a little bit lower. But it will come out of there pretty quickly, he says. Come on. Any more questions? Yep.
So this is it's checking and it's hardening.
Yeah, so it will do a check, then it will harden, and it will do a check again.
Do you have an option to just check and get the reports? I don't want you to harden yet. I just want
Yeah,
to know
there's a
what you do.
there's a tag. There's a tag for run audit, and it will just run the audit for you. Again, if you wanted to, you could just run your own cron job as well and then run it regularly as well. It does output it to the box. So I think we've just finished. I don't know if you can see it on the screen. So I'm going to try and zoom out a little bit. Sorry, just so you can see a bit more. Just if I can get rid of that for you. Here we go. So there you go. You have all 3 servers come out with a report, the pre-report and the post-report. As I said, 520 checks I'm running. And that could be, does a file exist? Does it have the right permissions? Is the content correct inside them? And is it the running config the same as the configured file? 524 checks, 184, 178 failing beforehand. It runs all those checks in sub 10 seconds. Just to give you some idea. Now, I don't know if you guys use Nessus. Anyone using Nessus out there? You've used Nessus in the past. 10, 15 minutes if you're lucky to get the reports back. This is the reason why I've run it on here. It runs on the host. It doesn't run over Ansible. So where Ansible using connection, we run it on the host. Now, if you run it on a shared solution, you don't want to run it on 1,000 nodes on the same server at the same time using shared storage. It might have a few problems with that. But yeah, ideally you're using the host then for the energy, for the results to come back really quickly to you. Yes?
When it attempts to change
Yep.
a feature or whatever, and let's say that fails, does the
Yeah, the playbook will stop. There is a couple where we're aware you might get random exit codes because of what will happen depending on the solutions we come across. So we have counteracted for that, but it will just stop because the last thing you want to do is have a problem and add more problems to it afterwards. So if you've got a problem ready, you want to stop there and then. It is as idempotent as we can possibly get it. So we've made it so, I think you can run through this again, and you might get 2 changes, and that is because we created a file at the end saying here's your output. So it is as idempotent as you possibly can. So desired state is one of those things we try to keep in place. And the bit at the bottom there, you can see the warnings. One of the boxes did not have a reboot, and you should find in there, it says a reboot required somewhere. I didn't because I overrun it. That's my fault. I forgot to turn it off. But you'd get a reboot required as well. So at the bottom of your report, you get a reboot required saying this box probably doesn't need a reboot. You've just done a grub config. You've done loads of bits and pieces that will require a reboot to take place to pick everything else up. Any more questions? I think we're pretty good. Yep.
It didn't take a lot of setup. You could literally clone it and run it on something, obviously giving it passwords or whatever. And then when you realise you don't want to do something, you can find the test and go and disable it. And it was easy.
So you can quite easily use group vars or however you're using your variables. Everyone uses them differently. I demonstrated inventories earlier on. I'm writing it for a client right now that wants it in group vars. So they have the web servers with one config, the database servers with another config, and we're writing it a different way for them to work for them. So again, we're using the same variables across all their estates or the groups, and then those same variables are being copied using the Ansible templating to Goss. So Goss only runs the checks that you want it to run. So you're getting the best of both worlds from that side of things. If anyone's interested, we are on the MITRE website, so MITRE actually promote all of our stuff as well. So if you go to the MITRE stuff, then you'll see that we're on the hardening side of it. So virtually every Linux one comes from us, especially the Ansible side of things. And we are expanding all the time. There's a couple more in the pipeline. Cisco's on the way for a router and a switch. There's a few other things that we're working on right now, which I'm going to try and be a bit coy about. Any more questions? Yep.
One is it's a bit specific.
Okay.
So the checks, I guess, that Goss would do, how easy would it be to create them as custom facts on the servers?
So they are, as a custom fact I haven't written, they're purely for CIS. For the product I mentioned earlier on, that's going to be the interface, you can see it on a nice, pretty layout. You have the ability to write your own Goss reports, and it will import those as well. So if you have your own bespoke stuff, so you wanted version X of this and version Y of that one, you can run your reports. These files must have these name servers and these NTP servers and so on. You could run your own Goss setup, import that into the product we're writing, and have your own display as well.
The output of the report
Yep.
stored as custom facts.
There's no reason you couldn't use YAML. So you could query it through and use it as YAML. There's nothing stopping you. It's just how you want to query it. So if I try and show you a quick report of how, at the moment, this is quite noisy. So let's hop onto one of these boxes here. This is purely YAML because I have all the, just typoed that as well. How can you type vagrant wrong? So in your output, I don't know if you saw on the screen before, you should see, there's your scan. So you've got a pre-scan and a post-scan coming through out of that one. If I ran that one there with vars,
Is that JSON the output?
I will show, yeah, it is JSON output, yeah. So if I, I'll just cut that for you. Oh, wrong one. Alma will be handy. Post. Yeah, so it's pure JSON. If I run it, another one for you, so if I do run audit -v var up vars, and then what you'll see here is I'm actually using a file. This is the template copied over, so I'm running it with the same test that Ansible actually runs with, and I'm going to put a format on it. It will now, you'll see it running live on the host right now. So that will now put it into a different format. It comes out on the screen, and I'll show you in a second. You got 8.7 seconds. So if we have a quick look at that one, and then we cat the audit There's a different layout for you. There is different layouts you can use. I think there's even a Prometheus one, I think, if memory rings me right. So there's different versions you can output. You can write your own as well. And those of you who look at it, there is a website called Goss Rocks, which points to the GitHub web page. It is just picking up again. I'm talking to the developer myself just to try and get that moving a bit faster as well.
So, sorry, Goss is a separate, that isn't run by you guys,
No, so another open source product, so completely open source. The beauty of having Goss is a lot of the clients we work with are disconnected, so black environments, so not connected to the internet anyway. When you turn and say, I've got a Python script you want to run, but it needs 427 modules, and you have to get every module checked and signed off before you can bring it into an estate, having one Go binary makes your life so much easier. So you can see how much quicker we can get it in there. If I go back to this one here really quickly. They're going to come back. Yes. Okay, so there is, any more questions? Yes. Cool. John?
So if I want to have a management report,
Yep.
how many of my hundreds of boxes are compliant, and the ones that are not compliant, what needs fixing to hand it off to someone to go and fix?
Yep.
I have to roll something myself at the moment.
You do, like I said, the product's in beta, the one I'm talking about. It has 3 levels of report, so we've written it that way. So you have like a C level, where they have the RAG status because they want to see what their estate's like. Those that are a CISO level that want a bit more detail to see what's going on. And then you have the engineers that are probably the ones going, you need to fix this now. And the details inside there for those guys, including which control and so on. So they can really dig and drill into every part of it. So yeah, it is there. I'm hoping in the next sort of couple of months. So watch this space. I'll make sure it's put up on the community and Twitter and all that sort of stuff. So we've got a Twitter page as well, but I couldn't remember what the name was. But, yes, another question.
Is that Go binary, is that maintained by yourselves? Or
No, so there's a guy called Ahmed. He actually runs the thing. The community is just picking up again. I'm talking to him on a private channel as well. So that's about to pick up, and a lot of new developments taking place in that one. So that's going to be extended quite a long way. And again, you can join the community if you wanted to. It's all on Gopher. So if any of you guys use Slack and Gopher, you can hop onto there. And there's a Goss channel on there, and you can see what's going on inside that one. They've just opened it, so there's not many people on there now, but the community is quite active on the issues. Any more questions? Yes?
Do Red Hat know about this?
So we partner with Red Hat. So if you look at the Red Hat Ansible website, they are aware that we've written Red Hat 7. It's a very good question. They do have their own product from Red Hat, but not from Ansible. So we partnered with Ansible to write it originally. And Red Hat have released their own product. So I don't know whether there's been a miscommunication or what's happened there. But yeah, there is, Red Hat are aware of it.
We had this like digital transformation upgrade everything. We wanted something that configures boxes and then reports if they configure right.
Yep.
And we went to the outsourcers, they recommended Ansible. We bought in Red Hat as well because they're selling Ansible. They wanted Ansible Tower.
Yep.
They said we can configure everything, but then they could not sort out how to report if everything's compliant or not.
So there's a lot of tools out there.
Off the whole Ansible thing, so you can't do it.
Yeah, so Ansible would not do it. Ansible's a fantastic tool, but it doesn't always mean that you've got to use a hammer to put a screw in. Yeah, there's the right tool for the right job. Ansible's great at doing many, many things, and in fact, you've only got a limited tool set, it can do virtually anything, but it doesn't mean it's the right tool for the job. If you've got the opportunity to use other tools, I would use other tools in some cases. Infrastructure, I probably wouldn't use Ansible. I'd probably use Ansible to drive Terraform or one or the other. I'll play around that sort of things, but Ansible is very, very good. Configuration management, this sort of thing, excellent.
So this layers on top of Ansible to help you author your configuration checks and then generate reports based on that.
Yeah, so the product that we're looking, you know what the product we're looking to release?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the product we're looking to release is a separate black box, if you like. It's containers. It's all Docker inside there and running on a Kubernetes cluster, I believe, which will ingest all the information and output it for you. But that will be coming. But yeah, come and see me after and I'll give you some details. Fantastic. Any more? No? Excellent. So just in the back of that, there's a few links there if anyone's interested. I know some people take photographs and so on. It is all open source. Like I said, we don't charge for it. If you want it, we'll try and give you community support. But that doesn't mean you're going to get priority. Those people that are paying for the repost will get priority. It's not very expensive. There is a link there if anyone's interested in taking it back to the company on lockdownenterprise.com. The Goss link's up there as well, and there's me at the bottom as well. And if you want to join the Discord community, feel free to chat away and just join in. Excellent. Thank you very much.